Hi, folks. In the next couple of assignments, we're going to be building Conway's Game of Life. And you can read about Conway's Game of Life if you just go to the Wikipedia page and you can scroll through um, what the game is. It's really a cellular automation type of game in which you put cells onto a grid and then those cells will propagate or not propagate depending on what kind of pattern you put in. Here's some different kind of patterns. There's a self-perpetuating pattern called a blinker. Here's another one called a glider. Um, and then there's other patterns here. Uh, Here's one built on a three-dimensional grid. So the one you're going to build looks like this. And by the way, I should also say that John Conway, at the time of making of this video in mid-April, just died of COVID-19. He was a mathematician in Princeton, New Jersey. Here's his obituary right here. You can see a picture there of his office in Princeton, I believe. And interestingly, here's a particular pattern or built on Conway's Game of Life grid, in which you can see here he is, presumably, and then his soul perhaps going, using a glider going up into heavens. And you could actually replicate this pattern by the time you finish this assignment. Let's look at what the deliverable looks like. One of the deliverables is this. You just have a grid here. And then you can put in cells, for example. You can just click in cells, and then you can make those cells regenerate after each generation. They'll follow these rules here, and after every generation, it replicates. So if I evolve it, you can see that um, based on the number of surrounding cells, a cell decides whether to become animated or die, and it follows these particular rules here, which you have to sort of embed in code. And then after you've created a pattern, you can make it evolve, pressing this evolve button, and eventually your patterns die out. But part of the fun is trying to make a pattern that lives that lasts a long time. Let me just show you a few other patterns. This is blinkers and gliders. Here's a glider. Here's a blinker. This is a blinker too. Watch what happens when I'm going to click the Evolve Auto button so I don't have to click this Evolve button over and over again. You can see the glider is moving down the grid, and you can see here the blinkers. These blinkers just sort of are these self-perpetuating patterns that kind of blink off and on. Watch though, as this glider comes down, it's going to come to this blinker and it's going to destroy it. And it does. And then of course, here's also, this is not a blinker, but a box just of 4 cells like this just perpetuates itself. So you can pretty much see the deliverables for the, what you're going to be creating at the very end. First, you're going to be creating a grid where you can, toggle cells on and off, kill them or make them live. And then you can make them evolve like that manually just by clicking the manual evolve button, or you can make them evolve automatically without having to keep pressing the evolve button by clicking the evolve auto button, which just you're using a set timeout or set interval JavaScript function in the background to run this. And then you can also use the apocalypse button to get rid of everything. That gets rid of all the cells or it kills them off. And then finally, you have this blinkers and gliders button, which puts a few preset familiar patterns on the grid that you can then evolve. And by the way, this blinkers and gliders button is good to put in so that when you're actually coding, you can test whether whether you're actually abiding by all these rules. Because if you coded all these rules correctly, then the these patterns that you create will evolve exactly like they are here. And in fact, that's how I test whether you completed the assignment correctly, is whether, first of all, that linkers and gliders comes up, and then when I evolve it, I get exactly this pattern. By the way, let me just show you one cool last pattern that is one of the nicer patterns I think out there. Just finishing the pattern here, something you could do as well. And now if I click Evolve Auto, so we've got this is one pattern that sort of propagates, has a more viral quality than other patterns. And, we're making this video in sort of the time of COVID-19. There's a certain topicality to this assignment, right? We're sort of studying or simulating virality on through a grid that's automating cellular reproduction. So actually, to create this, this looks probably like a pretty challenging task, but we get to this in baby steps through a couple different activities. Depending on the semester, there are activities and sometimes there are assignments. But this is built with a table. But before we get to that, we work with arrays or arrays of arrays, and this is arrays of arrays. So we just get sort of familiar with how to work with kind of grid-like type data models. And this particular activity, we just have a little Pac-Man here, and it moves around randomly on the board. Um, but when it gets in the vicinity of a ghost, it'll then eat it, and if it sees any other ghosts in its vicinity, it'll eat them. So you can see it ate those right away. And that particular time, Pac-Man knew exactly where to go. See, it's moving around randomly. When it gets, now it knows to go and eat these. So we're going to be doing this assignment or this activity. And then we're also going to build Conway's game of life, not using a table like an HTML table, but using here we also are using an array of arrays. Um, it's a slightly simpler way of doing it than here, where you have to sort of worry about the intricacies of the DOM, the document object model. Here, we're doing Conway's game of life with just an array of arrays, and we can you can see that glider moving across the board, just along with the blinker at the bottom. So that's sort of the sequence of how we go about getting to this. We go first building a Pac-Man type activity, a Pac-Man that hunts ghosts. Then we build Conway's Game of Life using an array of arrays. And then finally, we do Conway's Game of Life with all this add sort of interactivity using an HTML table.